Ben Lieber will be a part of this hour about 45 minutes or so from now. Johnny Athletic will join at 5:30. A key item regarding the DiVincenzo controversy at the Garden yesterday evening. I think the Wolves lost. I don't even think it matters, but because of the intrigue. But in the end, I think they did lose. Huge night, for whatever it's worth, from Anthony Edwards.
Yep.
And so DiVincenzo's at the foul line. And the first version of what the New York Post reported he said was, "Thanks for the trade, Tibbs." Something to the effect of, you get to make all the calls, and as if he was being sarcastic about the deal. Now, ultimately, we'll get Johnny's view because he was there. But now it sounds like what he was saying was can't finish, right, Tibbs? Can't finish, as in the working theory I've heard now is Dante's got a mole inside the Knicks locker room that before the game said, hey, on our scouting report, here's what they said about you. In our own scouting report, make him basically make him go all the way to the basket and finish.
Right.
Okay. And that sounds more logical, but I also think, was it playful? My guess is it's 50-50. Dante's going to say it was playful.
Yep.
Because publicly, I think that's the position he wants to, the pose he wants to take. But my guess is, deep down, as a guy who I think is another one of those guys who likes to play with a little bit of the chip on the shoulder, that it bugged him a little bit, and it annoyed him a little bit. And I'm going to go against my own rule about preseason sports to say this much. And Anthony Edwards talked about this after the game. What strikes me as being an added bonus of adding Dante, who I 100% endorsed, I think you did as well, is I think that Anthony's pretty good about his own energy, but not all the time. I think he's going to get energy from Dante's quote-unquote motor. I really do. I think you're already seeing a little bit of that. He never stops moving. He says he learned that, playing for Golden State, where you got the wing players, including perhaps the best backcourt of all time, Michael Thompson's kid and Steph, constantly moving, right, without the ball.
That's all they do.
And that's already what we've seen from Dante. Now, here's what's going to be interesting. This offense has had great movement. Will it continue to have great movement when Julius Randle is inserted into it? That's a fair question. Because what we've seen is a lot of wing activity, a lot of interchangeable parts where the ball is just moving and they're also running more. But Randall is a guy who he's a good assist guy, but he can also be a ball stopper. Does he understand how he can best, I guess you could say, integrate himself into this team? I'm not sure. But my point is, with Dante, I have no problem with whatever that extra edge is. I have no problem if deep down he is annoyed that the Knicks dealt him. Because I think you're going to see him play with that added edge, which we talked about, both he and Randall in their best of times can represent on a team that I think was a little bit finessey in that regard. So we'll see. But if he can also play off of, or I should say Edwards can play off of him, because he sees something in him. He sees that added element on the wing that, the Wolves did not have. All the better, right? Everybody wins in that environment. And from an offensive standpoint, maybe it allows Edwards to a little bit more often fade into the background.
Right.
Not have to feel like I got to score the next 12 points, although he was very good offensively last night.
I don't even keep it right to Ant. I think it's a guy that can get Jaden going.
Yes.
As another guy who's a slow starter at times and sometimes a no-show. Even a guy like Naz Reid has his moments where he's not always locked in. Like, I think as many guys like that, I even think back to what Pat Bev did for the team. Now, he's insane, as we know, but
this guy's a better player.
He is a better player. But Pat Bev stirred those guys up and got them to play hard and got them going, got the crowd going. I think DiVincenzo can do all of those things, and he's a better player. And he's more consistent. And it might have been 50-50. I think it was 75-25. He was serious. I don't know Dante DiVincenzo very well, but typically when you're messing around with somebody who you like, There might be a wink. There might be a head nod. There might be something. He was stone cold, stone-faced at the line, looking over at the bench, saying what he was saying. Like, I know he's saying I was joking around. I think it looked to me pretty serious. And obviously the stuff with Brunson's dad after was dead serious.
We've all heard that from the Wolves' standpoint, they love all of it. Because they don't view it as just talk.
Right.
They view it as this is the drive with which
what he brings.
He's going to play, and that's going to be nothing but good for what this team does. Leaving aside his ability to score and to shoot the three. We've talked about what had to improve in this team this year that had Towns last year is offense. This was not a very efficient offensive team. Can they move up? I think they were 17th. All you're really looking for, I think, is moving up to 10.
Yeah.
If you can be top 10 on both ends of the floor,
you're a contender.
Then you got a shot at winning the whole thing. That's what this whole deal is, no question about.
And wasn't that like the last however many NBA champions, they were top 10 in both?
Yes.
That was the number we kept going with last year. It's like they're looking good right now. They're the number one seed, but just FYI, they're going against history a little bit.
Yes.
If they do win the title this year, because most teams that have won have been in the top 10 in both. Not top 5 necessarily, but top 10.
Here's another wrinkle on the my search for the original baked ruffle.
The A topic of the show so far today.
Flim Flam writes, he's got a photo of a baked Ruffles bag that reads original. And he writes, gluten-free, and by the way, I'm the idiot. I didn't know all potato chips are gluten-free. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I had no clue.
Nope.
I'm not a great gluten-free mind.
No.
Lori Fisher could have told us in a minute. Gluten-free isn't the only issue. It seems Lay's, for the brand, has been replaced by Ruffles. I think this is the knockoff that is too easily mistaken for the aforementioned chip. Is there now, because of this demand that I represent, is there a phony baked Ruffles that I can't even count on as being the real thing? Is it a knockoff?
Wow.
I'm just asking. I don't know if that's true. Because there's nothing on here on the cover that says Lay's on it. It just says Ruffles in red at the top, and then underneath that says baked, 70% less fat than regular potato chips. And then it reads original, and then there's the GF symbol. I assume that's for gluten-free. Yep. Is there a baked Ruffles knockoff? Do I have to worry about that now as well?
Seems like you do, but would you take that because you're so desperate for any kind of baked ruffle?
I might, but I'll know the difference. You ain't going to fool me.
Not going to get it past you?
No, I don't think so. Could be a big difference. I believe I know the baked ruffle, the flavor better than anybody.
I believe that.
Lord knows I've eaten enough of them. Yeah. I've been talking about it for 15 years.
It's been a minute, yeah.
Been a long time. Well, I'm trying to be a little healthier. Chips are one of my weaknesses, so I figure if you're going to do it,
do the healthier option.
They claim it's better.
Yep.
Any form of baked is better than fried, correct?
That's what they claim, but we always get the text from people that say we're fooling ourselves.
Yeah, and I might be. It certainly wouldn't be the first time. That's for sure. And it's probably not going to be the last as well. Do we want to put $1,000 in somebody's hand right now?
We're going to try.
Okay.
The Fan and 2 men and a junk truck would love to do that. It's our national cash contest. The 4 o'clock keyword is credit. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword credit.
We have by the way, if you have any thoughts about, I need to get to the KOC tees. We'll pay off the KOC tees. Eventually today, we're going to have to ode to a dead guy, but it's not going to be an ode to a dead guy. It's going to be ode to a dead department store. You know about which one I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
The end of the run. It's like literally this is the last one of these in the United States of America, and it's about to close. I definitely want to get back to that. Ben Lieber later this hour, and Johnny Athletic right off the plane from New York, where he apparently was courtside for for the reunion between Karl Anthony Towns and the Minnesota Timberwolves at the GOT. Last thing I want to do is get the hopes up of Minnesota Vikings fans too much. But apparently, running back Aaron Jones did get some work in today with your favorite football team, right? Is it preliminary work that doesn't necessarily mean he will be available on Sunday for the Lions game? Probably. I'm sure we'll get more detail on this as the week goes on. Kevin Seifert will join us tomorrow, but he was out there, right? And that in of itself. Now, part of that might have been just to test it out,
right?
See how much flexibility he's got in it. But he's out there, and at least for the first day, noon game, Vikings-Lions. Lions running game is as good as there is right now. Our running game with Jones has been effective. I want to see it used. I think that's an important part of whatever we're trying to put together. I know what KOC is doing. It's coaching psychology 101 today when he says, we're fine. His message to the team was, we're fine with nobody talking about us, which, of course, means the opposite.
Right.
But he's trying to say, well, okay, we'll lay in the weeds. That's fine. We're 5-0. How many undefeated teams are there? Us in Kansas City? That's fine. This isn't, I don't think, all that complicated. There's two things working here against the Vikings a bit. One is relative lack of pedigree, even at 5-0, compared to the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Kansas City is a team that I think has earned the benefit of the doubt. It feels like, did they just win a Super Bowl again?
They did. They're going for 3 in a row.
For Mike Yo. 3 in a row, you're saying?
Right. For the first time in Super Bowl era history.
Think about that.
I have a lot.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So probably they're going to be...
They're going to get some headlines.
Whether it's even fair in comparing the way this year's Chiefs team has played to this point with the Vikings and other teams, they're going to get a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt.
And by the way, the Chiefs tight end will be attending Game 1 of the American League Championship Series with his girlfriend Taylor Swift.
They're back together?
I think they're back together.
So the cooling trend meant nothing? No problem?
I think she was just rehearsing for the Eras Tour, which is about to kick back off in its final leg.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Anyway,
okay.
People that are interested, they're going to Game 1 of the ALCS.
Okay. So I... would say that's one of the reasons that if you think we're still being relatively ignored, that's going to be the case. The other is they didn't play this weekend. So to a certain extent, the emphasis is going to be on other games, other teams that played, teams that aren't necessarily as good, but they just had a game. There were interesting angles in those games. There were interesting wrinkles in those games, with the notable exception of the Sunday night game, which was awful. Awful, awful, awful TV. The Giants and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it was 17-7 was the final.
Yeah.
Bengals were very beatable, but the Giants couldn't move the ball enough to do anything about it. That's a game where they should have flexed out of that one. That was, and you could even say going in, you might have been able to know it, even though the Giants had shown a little bit of life. So I get, KFC, we know where you're coming from. We get it. We can see this from a mile off. But I don't think... And again, there may be a little more skepticism. Somebody brought it to my attention that Kornheiser, I think on his podcast, not his TV show, with Wilbon, says something to the effect of the Vikings aren't that good. That's not the end of the world. There's going to be...
A million opinions.
And... Again, the way they've played the last 2 weeks, which has been get out to big leads and then sort of seemingly kind of hang on, you're going to get a little more of that until you have more evidence. So I can see right through what the head coach is doing. I have to believe some players are smart enough to see right through, but maybe they don't want to, because a lot of players, I heard this from Tom Brady again yesterday, that he loves the chip on the shoulder that he believes Goff, the Lions quarterback, plays with. Is it Jared Goff?
It is.
And he hopes he never loses that. So I've come to believe that a lot of players, they know that they really aren't as disrespected as they're pretending, but they have been in the past, and they want to wallow in it and use it because they think it helps make them better. And in case of some players, maybe it does. It's made you be better for years. How many times you've been disparaged?
Oh, yeah.
Mocked and ridiculed,
daily.
And you go, okay,
every day.
Hey, it's fine, let's play.
You post the letters on your cubicle and you move on.
You move on. Well, not only do you move on, you add another job.
That's true.
Every time it happens, you add another job.
I try to.
Yeah,
I think I'm a few jobs behind.
You might
with
be.
Some of the criticism. But I do think players buy into it, though, because
you're right.
I'm thinking about, I can't remember if it was the Niners or the Texans. I think it must have been the Niners game. They'd won 2 games, and Blake Cashman's on the field with Lieber, and he's talking about, now people are going to talk about us. Now the media is going to have to talk about us because they beat the Niners. I'm pretty sure. And it was either the Niners or the Texans. And either way, it's the second win of the year or the third win of the year. And Blake Cashman is an underdog, right? Walk on at Minnesota,
That's
had to
true.
earn a scholarship, has grinded his way to a really productive NFL career. So in his mind, he's one of those guys, it would appear, that's always looking for that edge, always looking for that slight.
Yep.
And so I'm sure KOC is playing into it with a lot of these guys, whether it's Grenard or whether it's Harrison
He doesn't
Phillips.
want us to become fat cats because fat cats get slaughtered.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
I don't see them doing the fat cat, not the teddy, but the stuffed animals thing.
No.
That the Zim did. I don't think this organization would do that in its current form. Do you?
I think someone would get to KOC that has been in the building for a while and say that didn't work out the last time.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure KOC runs things by a team. I'm sure he's got a council of people. When he says, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? Let's not use the stuffed animals this time.
As a carpenter, I worked on a whole house remodel in the West Metro for the inventor of baked Lay's potato chips. Judging by that project, it pays well to invent baked Lay's. I'm sure you appreciate your love of the chips. His chips. Is that true? Is that a local angle?
Could be.
The Baked Ruffles inventor.
We've got a lot of smart people here.
Well, we got to get him on if that's true.
We got it. We have a lot of food
maybe
companies
he can
here.
help us get to the bottom of the lack of availability, relatively speaking. Ruffles is its own brand name within the Frito-Lay parent company.
Makes sense.
Right, 651 guy. As is Lay's, it is its own brand within the parent. There's never been anything called Lay's Ruffles. However, there are wavy Lay's, such as the ridged version of chips under the Lay's brand. I've seen those as well. So maybe we've gotten to the bottom. We've gotten to the bottom of that as well. Interesting. So there it is. That's more information. Now, somebody else is saying that the comment that the head coach made, I first saw it on a Seifert tweet, that it actually came from before the Packers game. I thought it was today. Am I wrong? Or maybe do we know? Have you heard about those comments?
I watched them.
That was today. Or did we watch something we thought was from today that actually was from further back?
Well, Seifert presented it
as new,
as today.
Yes.
But it is, I mean, it looks like it's part of the Voyage show or whatever it is that they do.
Oh.
So I don't know.
What's the Voyage show? What does that mean?
The Voyage presented by Mystic Lake, like those.
Oh, I got you.
You know, those mic'd up where they do highlights and they have, reaction from the bench and reaction from the locker room and all of that. That came out today. So it would lead me to believe that it wasn't from today.
Oh, well then, all right, we stand corrected if that's true. Well, that's weird though, isn't it? Why would it? Maybe he just misunderstood, or he thought it was from today. By the way, somebody wrote that the Bears don't play in the division until week 11. Is that even possible? I guess it is.
Yeah,
there's 3. Yeah, that's. But then you'd be playing in the division. I would assume the rest of the way, right?
Yeah, I'll pull up their schedule here quickly.
Pull up their schedule. That's kind of intriguing, but it might well. I mean, it may well be true that the gaudy records within this division are a function, more than anything, of not playing much within the division. And that once that starts happening, you're going to see a number of NFC North teams come back to the pack. I think it's definitely fair to say that the Bears are in question because, again, their 4 victories are all against 1-victory teams. Now, where I will give them credit is, in at least certainly the last 2 of those games, they haven't sort of eked out victories, right? They've dominated those games, and it is clear their offense is improving for the first time. And I think it's also clear, even last year, they have a pretty good defense. Their defense is representative at the very least.
They have a bye this week, right? We've established that. Then they've got the Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots, and then week 11, November 17th, they host the Green Bay Packers, their first divisional game. Then the Vikings, then the Lions, then they get the Niners, then they play the Vikings and Lions again before the Seahawks, and wrapping it up at Lambeau on January 5th.
Potential.
So 6 of their last 8 games.
That's pretty late, I think. And we've obviously hosting Detroit.
Yep.
And then what do we got? I tell you what, we can get into this in a little more depth. I want to revisit the Vikings schedule because I think we're getting into the soft middle of it. I thought before the season, it felt soft. It felt like that's where I thought, well, they might be out of it by the time you get to those games, and clearly that is not even close to being the case. Don't forget also, before we're done, Johnny Athletic at 5:30, Ben Lieber at about 4:45. He will help us preview Lions week, see what caught his eye in the National Football League games over the weekend. And we also should get to some of your Gopher stuff, Guardsy. The Gophers make it 2 in a row, a late touchdown drive that they had to have. Well, they didn't have to have. I guess they could have settled for the field goal, but they ended up scoring the touchdown to move back ahead by 4, and then they get another pick, and they make it 2 in a row. They sweep the Southern California college football teams, USC and then UCLA. You know who, by the end of this season, might well be viewed as the best team in football, or at least a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs?
Who's that?
Baltimore Ravens.
Well, you're right. They're rolling.
They're rolling. I thought Derrick Henry might be done.
Was cooked.
He looked a little slow to me in Tennessee. He has been a monster in Baltimore and was that again yesterday. And so you do think of this logically, and you go, you add that element to a team that did need to make it about more than, because everything else felt like it was revolving around the quarterback, right? Now you give the quarterback that kind of weapon where he doesn't have to do anything but hand the damn ball off. They got off to a slow start, right? But they did a good job. It was a fairly close game, actually. I mean, Washington hung with them until eventually the Ravens took control of it. The Ravens interest me greatly.
They should.
They definitely do. Adding a guy who he's, maybe I didn't pay enough attention to him at Tennessee. Maybe it wasn't even his fault. Maybe it was the line. He looks tremendous again.
Did you see him walking into the game yesterday?
No.
Bro tank, just guns out. He looked like, you're going to tackle this dude?
I was foolish enough before the season started to say, I think the dude's fat. And I'm going, am I out of my mind? Have you seen him?
Seems pretty chiseled.
He's not fat at all.
No.
He looks faster than I ever remember him being. He is a horse, as we say. And he's a throwback, in a way, you could say, to a different time. But it's not like Baltimore's afraid to throw.
Right.
With their QB, with Lamar. But it has to help Lamar that not everything has to revolve around him. Right? I think it was a very smart acquisition. And so they look to me like a team that will need to be very much reckoned with.
And they lost their first game of the year to Las Vegas. And the funny thing was, or maybe the second game, I'm not sure.
I think they started 0-2, didn't they?
Yeah, let me pull up their whole schedule because I'm looking at the Vegas game. He had 18 carries for 84 yards. Let me pull up their full schedule here because that was the funniest part is they made the big, acquisition. They got him. And then it's almost like they forgot they had him. Yeah, right. They lost to the Chiefs and they lost to the Raiders. So they start 0-2. And I don't think he got the ball very much. And it was almost like, why did you bring this guy in when you're not going to give him the ball, especially even in the fourth quarter when I think they had a lead at least one of the games. And then they finally figured it out. He's had over 100 yards in every game but one since then. And I think the other game was like 92 yards on 16 carries or something, and they put him on ice. He's nice.
He is very nice.
There's room for running the ball.
He's still got something left. That's for sure. Now maybe it'll wear down the second half of the season, but he doesn't look like it now. He looks really, really good, and it's a nice added threat to that for that offense. I guess you could say in one respect, KOC has every right to milk the disrespect thing. In that, looking at the odds as I see them now, Lions favored by 3. Is that what you've seen?
No.
Oh, no?
That's not what I saw.
What did you see?
I thought I saw the Vikings by a point or two, but I'll look up here. Let me find DraftKings.
I'm on the CBS Sports.com site. Lions are favored by 3 in the latest Vikings versus Lions. Excuse me. I put it into the search engine, and what came up was December 24th, 2023. So that's from a year
That spread
ago.
Makes sense.
So we are favored?
According to DraftKings, we are 2-point favorites right now.
Okay. Yeah, then he can't use that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you still could because you say, well, that's not enough. That would indicate if you give 3 points for home ice, then they still don't quite believe in us. But yeah, that's a little better than what I just called up, because I was thinking I actually would not have been surprised if the Lions were still favored because of what they did a year ago.
Yep.
How dominant they were yesterday. But I'm very much looking forward to the matchup.
The Hutchinson thing is going to be interesting, though, for them. That's a devastating loss.
He's their best defensive player.
The betting money is that their
That's
GM...
a point or a point and a half. Oh, they're going to do something aggressive.
That they have to go find somebody. He was like the heartbeat of the team.
They do. I think they do have. They're obligated. They're too good, I think, to not. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I don't know what the price is. Right. I don't know who's out there. There's a couple names that have been brought up.
Yep, like Max Crosby.
Exactly it, who apparently did the Zimmer Cousins thing with his own head coach, correct?
I think, yes.
Was the context, the difference was Cousins did that as they celebrated allegedly a victory.
A walk-off victory.
This was not a walk-off victory
No,
moment,
I don't think it was.
I don't think, but Crosby's claiming it was just no big deal, correct?
Yeah, he was saying he was just joking with Tibbs.
And he has
just
said,
like Dante.
He has said previously, stop trading me. If I want to be traded, I'll tell you, right? In the past, at least, that's what he has said. Now, I don't know if that's a public position, different from the private position. I don't know. The Raiders look pretty buried.
Well, they were crushed by Denver 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Yesterday, they were crushed by the Steelers, 32-13. So things are not going well there. No. Devontae Adams is in his own meat grinder there.
Yeah.
So that would be a name that would likely make some sense. But it'll be interesting to see what that does for the Lions, because if there's one dude that loves being a Lion and is about what a Lion is right now, besides their head coach, Dan Campbell, it's Aiden Hutchinson. That was a tough scene yesterday.
It was very tough.
And I won't even see, you know how you mentioned they won't show the injury if it's that bad?
Yeah.
That means I won't even look at it. Like, I straight up take the warning and don't watch it. I don't watch it on Twitter.
I respect that.
I don't watch it on TV. I try not to see it because I just don't need to see it.
More, and I'm sure we'll get into this in more depth with Lieber in a minute. NFL takeaways. Number 1 in the league for takeaways, Green Bay Packers, 17. Number 2, Bears, 13. Number 3, or tied for 2 with the Bears, Vikings, 13. Number 3, 4, 5, 6, Detroit Lions with 10. So all 4 division teams are in the top 6 in the NFL in takeaways. And we all know, no matter how much the game changes, those numbers are always indicative of a decent to very measurable amount of big-time success. We'll talk about how Lieber views the NFC North, what records should be taken seriously, what not so much, what he's thinking about as Lions Week begins, and so much more. Nacho Lieber right around the corner.